Hello and happy holidays, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, of course, here with Fuzzy Belvedere and our two-man attempt to make your Monday mornings brighter, funner, and of course, well, we're here to talk about video games. Now, one of the topics we're going to get into, folks, is a bit spicy. It is controversial. It has been for the last couple of days. We're going to get into some of the things that has happened with Avowed specifically. I know there's been a lot of talk of people trying to avoid the conversation, but, we are professionals, meaning, of course, Fuzzy and myself, and we don't shy away from controversy. We try to address it, and we're going to address this head on, and we're going to break it down in the best way, most politically correct way you could possibly imagine, and handle it like proper gentlemen. We're also going to get into a small topic to open up. Guess what, folks? Xbox is not dead. That's right, because the Series X Digital Edition is number one on through Black Friday on Amazon. And again, that's here in the States. It's not across the world, so take it easy. I don't think anybody in Japan is racing to make record-breaking 3 million consoles sold. But we're still going to talk about it because, again, it just goes to the adage that you can't believe what you hear and see on social media. And more importantly, Xbox isn't going anywhere anytime soon. We're also going to get into, some of that Kadokawa news because it appears that this is not a slam dunk for Sony. As a matter of fact, they are in the process of trying to figure out to get a loan in order to buy the company, which is kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. And also, folks, what we learned over the weekend, and if you listen to the Iron Lords, they get into it a lot. Kadokawa has been looking to be purchased for over 2 years, except they want Sony Interactive Entertainment to buy the entire company, not just the gaming and anime. And that kind of might hold up this whole deal. Now, granted, there's a whole lot of legal logistics that I think is going to hold up this deal anyway. I think the fact that they are really, cornering the market when it comes to anime, and I don't necessarily know if over 65% of the market cap is going to be okay for places like the CMA. I don't think that's going to fly. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea. But we'll get into that as well. But Fuzzy, how was your Thanksgiving, brother? Welcome back.
Oh, it was great. More relaxed. We're not doing the big family gatherings until more or later this month, but just me and the wife having instead of turkey, we had Cornish hen. So
okay, that's nice. Easy to cook, easy to prepare. Yeah,
smaller deal, but it was relaxing. Just great to have time off. Well, her having time off for being a school teacher and everything, and
very nice.
Just relaxing, playing games, catching up on some horror movies and stuff. But it was fun times. But man, just so much stuff going on social media. I decided, at most I'll just post some gameplay and some pics from Stalker 2. Been having a lot of fun with that.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. This is slowly becoming possibly your game of the year, which is awesome. I have not played much of it because I'm in the midst of reviewing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I can't talk about it now, but I am going to. I'm deciding whether or not I'm going to do a traditional video or am I going to go live solo for about maybe 30 minutes the evening of and do an AMA, basically ask me anything, video review. Now, I just want this to be clear. I am not doing a review traditionally. That's number one. And number two, my review for Double Barrel Gaming is going to be a review in progress. The reason why that is because I absolutely refuse to plow through the game to give it a score. I'm not doing that. I am playing the game the way that I always play these types of games. And I am taking my time. I'm exploring everything. And I haven't even, I've gotten far in the game, but I haven't gotten far enough where I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I beat the game. I will not have the game beat by the time the 5th happens. I may not even have the game beat by the time the 9th happens because I'm not that kind of player. I don't race through these games to give a score and then ruin my enjoyment. I play the games how I always play them, and that means I look at everything. And I'm doing a lot of video footage recording. So I'm going to put a nice video together that's going to be playing in the background. But I don't know if I think I'm going to go the angle of the AMA.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be a live stream solo, of course. It's going to be about 30 minutes. We'll cover graphics, we'll cover sound, we'll cover story, we'll cover controls, any hiccups that I've had, and then we will do a review in progress score live on the air. And again, as we get closer to the 5th, I'll confirm exactly what I'm going to be doing and how I'm going to be handling that, because the traditional video, I look, there are so many people that do it really good. You know, Colt Eastwood's video is going to be phenomenal. Xbox Era's video is probably going to be phenomenal. There are so many others. Me, I want to do it a bit differently, and I think I'm going to go the route of the AMA, which of course is the Ask Me Anything, and I'll be interacting with you fine folks live on the air. Again, as we get close to the 5th, I will of course give you the heads up of what we're doing. Some more house cleaning stuff. I am so honored. I am so thrilled. Folks, the double barrel gaming pillow is live. That's right, folks. You're going to see me and my nephew Tyler. We took some pictures. We sent it to Valari. They used those pictures for obviously the advertisement. I'm going to drop the link in there if you're interested. DBG15 at checkout saves you 15%. The pillow, I don't think I could have asked for a better design. I didn't design it. That comes the way from the artists over at Valari. They made about 7 of them. This is the one that Mrs. Boom and I settled in on, and it is freaking phenomenal. It is so good. I honestly, folks, look, when you do or you go or attempt to make a channel, a YouTube channel, you have no idea how this channel is going to go. It could completely fall on deaf ears and you get 15 subscribers, which is of course going to be your wife and your kids and your grandma and mama down the block, and that's awesome, right? Someone subscribed, maybe you get a couple of people. When I started this, I had no idea what I was doing. I literally was forced to retire because of a severe back injury that occurred, and I wouldn't have retired if I wasn't forced to retire. And here I am, I'm sitting, I'm watching YouTube, which I thought was just for kids. And I start finding that there are people like me who talk about video games, and this is amazing. And then after, being a guest on Mooch's show for, a couple of weeks, I was asked to become a panel member, and I spent 2 years on Crossfire. And again, I listen, it's not the same Crossfire as it once when I was there, and that's fine. But I'm always going to be indebted to Mooch for giving me an opportunity. And then, of course, I took that opportunity, and here we are. And with that opportunity, you get companies that want to work with you, folks. And I got to be honest with you, I'm still pinching myself. Like, it is honestly still shocking to me that our brand is actually on a pillow that someone can go out and buy. Like, it's mind-boggling for me. So a big thank you not to us, to you, because without you guys and gals, none of this happens. When you subscribe, when you retweet when we put it out there that we're live, or you let your best friend know, hey, listen, you like Xbox, go talk to this guy, go check out his show. Without you fine folks, we don't have any of this. That's really what it comes down to. And the fans don't get enough credit for being the catalyst for what makes us a part of this amazing universe known as gaming. But again, thank you so much for that. Last piece of house cleaning. You're going to see we're building the commercial right now as we speak for our 7th annual Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick. We will have a specific date that we'll launch that later this week. Again, if you didn't know, we're giving away $2,000 in 2 hours, folks. We've never done anything this big. It is nerve-wracking. It is exciting. And we're giving away 10 $100 gift card prizes and 4 grand prizes of $250. 4 of those. And those winners will be announced live on the air I believe it's going to be 7 up front when we, after the show starts, and then the final 7, which is a total of 14 winners. And again, it's we can't do any of that without the generosity of you. Once again, the people that watch this show who donate all year long, we are now then taking those super chats, tucking them away, and then repurposing them into giving back to the community. So that's it. That's the house cleaning stuff. Fuzzy Belvedere. This is a smaller topic. It originally wasn't on the docket, but I have to talk about it simply because we have been told, Xbox fans have been told for years, especially this year, even though they had an amazing, Game Pass release schedule, even though they started the year off and a little bit late, to be honest with you, with Hellblade 2 being a graphical masterclass delivery of a story that is better in every way than the previous version. Obviously, the June showcase, the roadmap that's been presented to us as fans, as consumers, is just unbelievable. We have been told, Fuzzy, that Xbox is dead. No one's buying consoles. No one's buying into Game Pass. Xbox is going third party, and they probably are going to be putting a lot of games here, there, and everywhere. And then, they want to make money. It's whatever. At this point, what am I going to say? But we learned this week, more specifically, Fuzzy, that, the Xbox Series X digital edition is #1 on Amazon. Now, why is that important? Well, it's Amazon. Amazon is one of the biggest retailers, or at least the online retailers in the United States. Now, are they big in the rest of the world? Absolutely. But are they big here? Yeah. So when you get #1 on their video game charting sales list, I think that kind of proves that you are not going away. And again, this is not the biggest topic of the show. This is one of those I just want to laugh about it kind of a topics, but it's funny. I don't think people understand how big Xbox actually is, and I think this is more proof that not only are they not going anywhere, more hardware is coming in the forms of next generation hardware that is probably going to be open-ended. Like we keep hearing that it's going to be, you're going to be able to play your Steam games and your Epic games as well. You got a handheld, which I still, in my gizzards, if you will, believe that it's going to be shown off at the Game Awards this year. We'll see. And if I'm wrong, believe you me, folks, I'll come out here and I'll be the first one to be like, yep, I got it wrong. I don't think so. I think they have an opportunity to shock the world. And also, we've talked about this before. You can't keep waiting. You can't wait till 2026 for your handheld, because there's so many handhelds in the market already. You want to hit while the iron's, well, you want to strike while the iron's hot, so to speak. But getting back to Amazon and the Xbox Series X digital, I mean, personally, I would have thought it would have been the original, but no. This is the Series S, the Series X digital edition, the white console, which I'm actually surprised. And it turns out, well, a lot of people are going full digital. And I guess Xbox Game Pass is really the catalyst for that. Because again, if you think about it, if you don't buy games, or you don't have to buy games, you just play on Game Pass and you're golden. And all you need to do is, obviously, 1 terabyte's not going to be enough for you, especially if you're going digital. That really should have been a 2 terabyte console. Maybe they do that at a later date, but there are options for you to obviously get the memory card, and those are on sale right now. What do you think about it hitting #1 on the Amazon charts?
Well, it's perfect timing given the holiday and everything, and the fact that now a lot of the games that people have been looking forward to are landing on Game Pass. So the digital one, for those that aren't currently in the Xbox ecosystem, it makes perfect sense. And even for some that are in the ecosystem looking for a second console, maybe they want to upgrade the Series S that they had on the living room TV to a Series X. That's a more affordable way to do it as well. But given the holiday, given how NCAA football sold a lot of Series S's, I'm not surprised that the Series X is selling, especially considering that more and more people are getting that synonymous feeling between Xbox and Call of Duty, whether it's gift giving time and they're seeing the sales and Black Friday deals and things like that. It's definitely probably one of the lesser expensive gifts out there, but well, not the lesser expensive because you could always do a Series S, but all things considered, I think it shows that Xbox isn't dead. I know people keep on joking as if, Xbox is this zombie just aimlessly wandering around for the past, 20 years or so, but people are still buying the games or playing through Game Pass, and you can't help but understand that recent advertising that this is an Xbox. Well, now people are actually looking to see what an Xbox is, and if the Series X that's all digital is a cheap enough price, they're like, oh yeah, I'll pick that up, and I have access to Game Pass, and they're not even thinking necessarily of building a library. They're just looking at, okay, I'll download these 5 games and play through them this month, and maybe I download a couple extra games here and there. All right, I finished this one, let me add another one to the queue. So it's going to be the new way of gaming, I guess, for a lot of people, or a secondary, console in the household, whether they're, Switch first or PS5 first. This is a great way for them to, try some of the other stuff that isn't coming to PlayStation or isn't coming to Switch anytime soon or anything along those lines. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm actually surprised more so at Xbox not doing like a Series S or this all digital Series X bundle for Call of Duty. I think during the holiday that would have been like a no brainer or slam dunk kind of thing. But maybe we see something along those lines as we get closer to the holidays, or maybe they include Indiana Jones or something along those lines. But yeah, it's great to see. Yeah, Xbox isn't dead. People are still buying the consoles. Yeah, they may not be buying them as many as, the PS5, but, people aren't buying as much Pepsi as they are Coke, and, Pepsi's been around forever. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's good to see that people are still in the ecosystem or willing to join the ecosystem and have a good time with Game Pass or the games on Xbox itself.
Well, look, I'll say this. I don't necessarily know if Xbox is ever going to move from third to first, right? Like Sony is one of the most popular brands in gaming. That's not going anywhere unless Sony completely just packs it up and becomes an app, like King David said, or simply there is no, hashtag no PlayStation 6. I think there's going to be a PlayStation 6, probably even a PlayStation 7. What that looks like, who the heck knows? But it is, again, it's more proof. Now, again, I know Arigato Sir is in here in the chat, and he said he drops a very generous $2 super chat and says number 1 on Xbox category overall, but it's 68 in the overall list of Amazon. Brother, listen, I didn't get into the weeds of that. It's listen, what I saw, and again, thanks to Will Broke Boy Lewis, because what I read, it was number 1 on Amazon. Now, I didn't get into the weeds of it being number 1 on just Xbox versus the rest of the world. Listen, dude, I didn't do that. Maybe I failed as a host. But look, at the end of the day, it's number 1 for something. Does it matter that it's against the world or just in the Xbox category? Somebody's buying the console. Now, again, I appreciate the $2 super chat, and I appreciate you being here in the chat. You're entitled to your opinion, whether it matters to you. I think it does matter. I think what does it say is that, yes, people are going digital and people are still buying Xbox, even though the brand is supposed to be dead. And again, as someone else said in the chat here, it's funny how Xbox is dead, but they make the most money. Well, ultimately, isn't that what it's all about? Because not that I personally care. The fact that they make money, like I said, I have stock. But I don't have enough stock that when they make billions of dollars that it's going to make me buy my next mansion. The one mansion's enough for me. But let's see. We got Starfield guy who's been a channel member for 4 months. I don't know what all of the do-do-do-da is about, but I appreciate you being a channel member, Starfield guy. Super appreciate it. And he goes, let's go, folks. Indeed, let's go. And again, thank you to Arigato So for the $2 super chat, as well as Will Broke Boy Lewis, who says this after a generous $5 super chat. Is it number 1 in Amazon for consoles, or is it number 1 in the Xbox store for Amazon? I heard both. I mean, listen, a couple of people sent me a few DMs with it being number 1 on Xbox. I mean, number 1 on Amazon. I didn't look any further. I said, listen, let's just talk about it, and whether or not it's one or the other, they're still selling consoles. Now, are they selling as many as PS5s? I don't know. Who won Black Friday? Black Friday was only a couple days ago. I guess we will learn in the next couple of days. I will say, though, and of course, this is to Fuzzy Belvedere. My God, I mean, did we all know that Black Friday was happening? Because I think everyone kind of knew it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I always find it head scratching with Xbox and their marketing. Like, look, I don't know what their warehouses are filled with, but I'm sure there's somewhere where they have hundreds, if not thousands, of Xbox Series S consoles, maybe even the 512 ones. How is it that there isn't a marketing push or blitz to sell that console at, I don't know, $250 with 30 days of Game Pass and literally slap on the box Call of Duty? Now, is that because the marketing deal just ended in November for Call of Duty and PlayStation? Again, I don't know the legal logistics of it. Maybe that's why they didn't do it. But I gotta say, man, to me, that's a bit of an epic fail. I love Xbox, but their marketing is just, man, it's just head scratching sometimes. Like, they could have logistically won Black Friday with the Series S by dropping it for 250, 200, whatever you want to. And you don't, like I said this before, you don't even have to give the game away. Don't give the game away. Make people play the game through Game Pass. They play for 30 days for free. Who the hell is not going to sign back up to play the Black Ops 6, one of the best freaking Call of Duties in a decade?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, listen, it is what it is. It's a shame that we didn't see a big push for Call of Duty, or even like for instance, they could have slapped Indiana Jones on there and be like, hey, play on, the 9th and go.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a bit of a head scratcher, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, if there's one department that Xbox needs help with, it's definitely messaging and marketing. And they could have hired me for a third of the price, and I could have put a marketing campaign together for them that would have sold thousands, if not millions, of consoles. Because again, the Series S is it used to be one of the best selling of the two. If you drop that down to a cheaper price, especially during Black Friday, man, you got a winner chicken dinner. I mean, just look again. If you just look at what Sony did, and I don't remember the year, man. It might have been 2019. It might have been 2020. I don't remember, but they had put out on Black Friday a Spider-Man special edition PS4 Slim.
Mm-hmm.
And it came with Spider-Man 2018. They put that out there for $200. And there were people, like, I saw the pictures, carrying 3 and 4 of those things out at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And man, they broke Black Friday records that have never even been touched as of yet. And if they would have put a $200 Series S, not the 1 terabyte, put out with the scraps of the old one, the 512s, put them out there, and you would have been golden. Sorry for the short rant, but I just don't get it sometimes.
Well, I think part of it is they may have blown their marketing or advertising budget with restaurants. They recently had the IHOP thing, and they had a pretty strange and cool Olive Garden one for Black Friday. I didn't hear about it until after the fact, after people were pissed off for a long line at Olive Garden, which usually, I guess, at least in my area, doesn't normally happen. If you went there, if you were one of the first 5, because they only had 5 consoles per Olive Garden, if you were one of the first 5 and bought like one of the classic dinners or something, you could buy a Series X for $150.
Wow!
So only the first 5 could get an actual Series X, and I think it was like the standard 1 terabyte with disk drive one, like the one that's now going for like $450 in some areas with the $50 rebate. you could get it for $150. But like when people found out about it, they drove past Olive Garden and it's like a line wrapped around the building. So it's like the first 5 people, if they get a classic dinner and they got 150 in their pocket, they got that Series X for 150.
Wow.
But you also got this Olive Garden wrap with like green peppers and tomatoes or something on it. I'm glad I already got my Series X's, but yeah, that was decent, but that was a kind of a weird crossover or collaboration. So they're trying.
I don't know, man. It just listen, their marketing needs help. And they had an opportunity. Now maybe they do again. If I'm flipping the coin here and I'm coming at this from the glass is half full kind of a thing, which is how I usually view life anyway. It has to do with the fact that the actual marketing contract with Sony just ended, right? Mm-hmm. And we learned that, I believe it was Charlie Intel that posted that I think it was last week or the week before, where it's officially Sony has nothing to do with Call of Duty moving forward. And of course, obviously, Xbox, they did have a strong marketing push for Call of Duty Black Ops, but there was barely any Xbox marketing for it. So maybe next year, whatever the next Call of Duty is going to be, whether that is going to be a new type of Call of Duty or that's the rumor of a sequel to Black Ops 2, we will obviously going to see a onslaught of the way that they do their business. Again, we one could help. But again, I'm just saying that it's a bit of a missed opportunity. I'm glad you brought it up. I would have overshot even thinking about it, but yeah, the fact that they didn't have a Series S at $200 with Xbox Game Pass, I personally think is a miss to get people into the ecosystem that might not have been there before, especially at $200. But it is what it is. Listen, before we get into another heated conversation, because again, this one is a bit deep, folks. I have a lot to say on it. Obviously, I have an entire spiel. We don't shy away from controversy. This one is probably as big of a controversy we've ever dealt with, because it matters, and I feel that we should have this conversation. Before we get there, though, let me just thank a couple of super chats that popped in here. Gray Fox 020 drops a very generous £6 super chat and says, "Boom! In Amsterdam, the streetcars are fully wrapped with Indiana Jones adverts. Finally, Xbox marketing in Europe. Greetings and happy holidays." That is good to know. I've seen quite a few ads for Indiana Jones. That game is gonna. I just hope that the under 30 crowd gives this game a shot. I really do. I hope it's not just a bunch of old men like us that appreciate the humor of Indiana Jones and the character itself. I don't know how it's going to hit. I'd like to believe that the game is so good from the way that they designed it that it's going to attract people to play it. Because again, one of the things that attracts many players who don't traditionally buy a bunch of games, especially when you look at Sony, is the way that they make their games. They're very visually appealing to the eye, right? Like they're very movie-esque, and people play them. I'm hoping that's the case with this, and that anyone under 30 will still appreciate the fact that, who is this old Indiana Jones man? Who is this man? And what, 1930 something? I don't know. We will see. Only time is going to tell. But we will see. Will Broke Boy Lewis drops an additional very generous $2 super chat and says, "Saw a lot of PC Game Pass ads this weekend during football." Yeah, PC Game Pass is doing numbers. I don't know if they ever thought that was going to be the case, but first of all, it's cheaper than console. A lot cheaper than console, and you don't pay for online. So, if you have a strong enough PC, and a lot of people do these days, why wouldn't you play this? I even if I had one, I can't imagine. Like, I know that people have some really great rigs that are hooked up to their TV or really amazing monitors. I like sitting on the couch. I like playing on my 65-inch TV that's got every bell and whistle you could possibly imagine. I could not find or at least I don't see the joy of sitting in front of a screen that's like right now. I have a 27-inch screen that's amazing, but I wouldn't want to play there. That again, that's just me. But look, got to give credit where credit is due. Smash JT wrote an article for his website, and obviously a couple like last week, if we remember, Avowed surprised a lot of people in the industry, right? There were a lot of people going into this preview that were a bit down on Avowed because of previous previews where the combat looks stiff. Graphics look great, but you know, the use of the magic didn't look great like it did in the original CG trailer, which of course it's a trailer, folks. And a lot of people, you know, like, oh, is it going to be another mid game? And then the previews come out, and everyone is talking about the previews. You know, again, for me personally, I never doubted Obsidian. I've been a fan of them since the OG Xbox days with Knights of the Old Republic 2. I've been a fan of them since Fallout New Vegas, you name it, they make a game, I want to play it. The Outer Worlds is a perfect example of Obsidian at their best. And of course, this is a new IP for Xbox. It is a first-party IP. It does have lineage, of course. Obviously, Pillars of Eternity is a brand. I've never played those games. Those are ARPGs. Those are definitely not my bag. The same way I played Baldur's Gate, someone gifted it to me, and then I was like, you know, I'm gonna play it, and I tried, folks, and it's just not for me, man. It's just not my kind of RPG that I enjoy. So I have no correlation to the Living Lands, which is where this takes place. I'm going to be learning about the Living Lands and these characters and these races and the lore for the first time because I've never played those other games. Now, if you've played Pillars of Eternity, it's a big W for you because now you're going to get a chance to, further your adventures in a land that you know. I don't know it. You know it. That's awesome. So the previews come out, Fuzzy, and everyone is there's buzz here. People are excited. People are talking about it. Some people have moved it up to their most anticipated of 2025. Some people I've even seen in the gaming media that this game wasn't on their radar, and now it is. So here we go. Good Xbox buzz, right? People are talking about Obsidian. People are talking about Avowed. It's one of the first big games to come out next year. It's hopefully going to be part 1 of 4 on the slate for what we've talked about for it seems like forever, about the 1 per quarter for Xbox. And then, of course, Matt Hansen, who is the art director, goes on what seemed like a 3-day binger of just hate rhetoric, and I don't even know what to say. Look, I want this to be perfectly clear here. Mrs. Boom and I run this channel where it is an open-ended channel where everyone is welcome. Okay, there are no parameters for who shows up, who hangs out, and how long you stay. If you are a human and you want to come and hang out with us, you are welcome. This channel is transparent. We are obliging, and we go out of our way to make everyone feel welcomed and comfortable. Now, what I want to get clear is the issue at hand here is pronouns. Pronouns is a thing, folks. Now, it may not be your thing. It's not our thing. For me and Mrs. Boom, she's a she, I'm a him, and that's it. And we are okay with it. But what I want to be clear is if you do use pronouns, that's okay as well. You're welcome here. And it's always going to be that way. Now, as a consumer, and I'm talking to everyone in the chat here now, anyone that's going to listen, if the pronoun conversation upsets you, it makes you have, like as a consumer, if someone puts that into a game that you're going to play, it is your right as a consumer to A, not play that game, and B, politically correct, have a discussion about it. You can be like, listen, I'm not playing this game. I don't believe pronouns belong in a fantasy RPG. I'm not playing it. Now it's gone off my list. And as a consumer, you are absolutely right and correct to do so. Where we have a problem is if it becomes a bias type incident. We will not tolerate that here. And I gotta tell you, man, as much as I want Xbox to win, this is another landmine. And I don't know what's going to happen to Matt Hansen. I would imagine that he may not have a job because he really went out of his way to go after everyone that had a problem with pronouns being a part of Avowed. I don't care. I'm going to play the game. It's a fantasy. I get to pick the character and class and be the character that I want to be. And that is awesome. I believe that the pronoun situation is going to be optional, which is, again, it's your option. It's your character. It's your game to play how you want to play it. Where I have incredible and massive pushback here, Fuzzy Belvedere, is this art director. Look, everyone here knows that I'm a retired New York police officer, right? That's not a surprise. I'm as transparent as they come. You know what I did for 21 plus years? Loved every freaking second of it. But when you are in the public eye, you have to be a professional. You have to be better and above than everyone else, no matter what is said to you. And you could imagine that as a police officer in uniform, some things that have said to me are egregious at least. But I never let that get the better of me because you got to understand you are in uniform, you are a professional, and you are supposed to raise yourself better than everyone else and just take it on the chin and let it roll off the back. That is how a professional is supposed to act. What Matt Hansen did over the course of seems like a couple of days here is unprofessional. It's embarrassing, and it's shameful, to be quite honest. Now, I have some quotes here from him, and I want to get into them because, again, maybe this is not why you tuned in for today, but we're talking about it, folks, and we're not shying away. So he started out with saying that, let's see, let me find it here. So where this all started from is he talked about pronouns being a part of the game. And Elon Musk, owner of X, got involved and said having pronouns in a fantasy game is utterly unacceptable. Now, look, I disagree with that. I think that what people have to understand in this community is that many walks of life are making your games. It is not just a guy sitting behind a desk making a game. It is many walks of life that make the games that we know and love. And those people, everyone that makes these games, have a right for representation. And what we have to get away from is believing that it has to be the old way of making games. It has to be this way because that's the way it's been for the last 20 years. Again, many walks of life are making our games. If you don't like the fact that DIE is a part of the game development process, then don't buy those games that this company is a part of. If you don't like the fact that there are pronouns in a game, you have every right to express your distaste for it. You have every right to not purchase the game, and you have every right to go on social media and be like, I don't like this in my fantasy RPG / first person shooter / action adventure game. I don't like that. You have every right to do that, and you should. You should not coddle to anybody. Again, bringing it back to someone being professional, this is his rebuttal. Sickos.jpg. I wanted so badly to make him mad with my game. I cannot believe it actually happened. Just wait until you see the default, you sad little shit. This is what he's talking to, of course, Elon Musk. But it doesn't end there, folks. So I saw a lot of people talk about racism being a part of it, and one of the things that Matt said, who of course is the art director at Obsidian Entertainment, he says, "Reminder to Black artists out there who are always looking for portfolio reviews or job advice. My DMs are open, and you will always have my priority. We got too many crusty white dudes in this field. Please let me help you replace me one day. I want to go back to living in the woods." I don't even understand what that means outside of him calling white people crusty. Why? Why do we have to do this? I don't understand. I mean, it's just so there's more, folks. There's more to this, Fuzzy. He goes on to say talking about people who had an issue with the DIE being a part, the DEI being a part of this game, the fact that pronouns are a part of the game. He says they need to feel the sting of shame for the rest of their putrid lives, to be honest, and that's me being nice. I also firmly believe that we need to crush these people's spirits into blood and earth, not be nice to the immoral supporters of an aspirational, gore-soaked dictator. Like, folks, I'm as confused reading this as you probably are hearing me read it. And I apologize for that, but this is what was written. I'm reading it verbatim. This comes the way of Matt Hansen, who, again, folks, is the creative art director for Obsidian Entertainment. For how much longer, I don't know, to be honest with you. But he went on, this unbelievable rant. I don't think it has a place in gaming. And again, he should know better. He honestly should be above this, and he's not. I mean, some of the stuff he wrote, I think if you didn't tell me who was reading it or who wrote it, and I was reading it, I'd be like, is this like a 15-year-old? Is this like a 16-year-old? No, this is a grown man. And again, I don't know why he felt the need to basically take a dump on all of the good buzz that his game and again, I say his, and let me correct that. It's not his game. He is the art director, sure, but there are hundreds of people that worked on this game. So now what he's ultimately done, and I saw it, listen, I mean, I'm not going to specifically call anybody out here. I'm not going to, people have entitled to their opinions, but even before we went live, there were people that one particular comment, and I don't blame them, said it went from Avowed to Avoid. I mean, if that's how you feel, that's okay. You're not going to get any argument from me here, but why do that to your game? Why do that to the hundreds of people that put their soul into this game to bring this adventure that ultimately is going to be the tale of what you do by doing this? Who wins here? Do you get your voice out there and and everyone gets looking at you? Was that the goal? Hey, look at me. This is what I'm doing. What about the people that worked on this game? What about the people that funded this game? So now, again, I don't, for me, and again, I'm speaking for myself, folks, I have not lost any faith in the game or any excitement in the game. That's me. Do I like the things that were said? Absolutely not. I think they're egregious at best. But I don't know why you do this. Fuzzy, again, this is a conversational podcast. I don't know how long you're gonna get on the mic, but please there's no rush. Give us your thoughts and your theories, man.
All right, so let me give a little bit of brief background. I'm the youngest of 3 kids, but my parents were born in the 30s, raised in the Depression, experienced the battles of civil rights during the 50s and 60s. So my outlook on things is a little bit different than people typically in the 50 age group. I'm probably more in line with 60, just because that's where my siblings were. But when it comes to the pronoun aspect, I don't understand the bother of it. Like I get it. Some people don't like those types of things or politics in their games or certain things in their games whenever they don't align with their views. And I get that. That's a you thing or whatever. I see politics in almost every game I play. And I joke about it even with Pac-Man. Pac-Man has politics in it. It has pronouns in it as well. But it's I don't get bothered by it. It doesn't affect me. If somebody else chooses to change what we would traditionally refer to them as, that's fine. I've worked with those that, like, if anybody remembers Saturday Night Live from the 80s, remember the character Pat?
Yes. And we didn't know whether Pat was a girl or a boy. That was the shtick, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I worked with someone just like that. It took them a while of, I guess, people avoiding them to some extent before they changed their appearance a bit, so we knew how to refer to them. But I get the uncomfortable conversations that come along with that stuff, and that's each person's going to navigate through that differently. But for me, I could care less what somebody else chooses to do. I don't have to bring them home. I don't have to sit at the dinner table with them necessarily. So it doesn't matter. That's their choice. If they happen to be invited to the house to be a guest for dinner, that's a different story. But the pronoun thing is, like, there are so many bigger issues in the world today and moving forward, and even issues of the past that are bigger priorities. I could care less on the pronoun thing. Like, if that's the hill you want to stand on, that you don't want to be bothered or affected by it, I get it. I'm not standing with you because I could care less. It's not going to make me lose sleep. It's not going to make me change my dieting habits or ruin a meal for me. It's not going to do anything other than maybe that small conversation I have with that individual, and they prefer to be referred to a certain way, and I have no problem in doing that. Like, if they want to be referred to that as that I can respect that. Now, if they want to be a belligerent asshole, it's a different story.
Some take it to another level where it becomes abusive, and that is where I step in and say, "Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
we can't have that kind of behavior." Mm-hmm. Again, we're Mrs. Boom and I are very much in the same boat as you.
Mm-hmm.
How you want to be addressed. Zero problems.
Right.
It's you. If you want to put yourself out there as he, her, or her, he, it is perfectly okay. Yeah. I'm not going to get in your way. It's when that is turned into abuse because you may or may not agree. That's where I have a real problem.
Yeah. I look at it as almost like the golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated, kind of thing. And that's as far as it goes. Like, I very rarely have had like the obnoxious debate or issue with anyone that talks about pronouns, but I do understand other people's discomfort with it. But once again, that's their issue, not my issue. And I can understand you not wanting that in games or television or other forms of entertainment. And you have that right to express that with your wallet. That's probably the best course of action. Now, on the flip side of things, for those that will consider themselves allies of that, what Matt did, I understand it. I don't agree with his approach, but I understand where he's coming from to some extent. The industry I was in, there were creatives in that as well. Just like not on the same level as video games, but there's animation, there's creative work for web design and things along those lines. So creatives, and I'm not saying to lump everybody in the one group, creatives tend to think differently on certain outlooks of things, as far as whether it's the visibility of something or it's how things should be received or interacted with and things along those lines. So I get where he might be coming from. Do I agree 100%? No, but it's his career that he could either tank or make this a teachable moment where it had been a better approach to go about this a bit differently. Like, I'll be frank with you. I could care less about Elon Musk. I hold him in the same regard I hold Henry Ford. And if you're a historian, you know what I mean. So I have no care in the world for him, but I'm not going to be on social media talking about him other than like a couple of posts that I made against him where when he took over Twitter, it seemed like he was more concerned about the person that was tracking his flights of his private jet.
Yes.
But that's another thing. Like it's freedom of speech until it interferes with your life. And I can see BS a mile away, and he's the man walking in a mile of BS. And if you see differently, just wait. It'll expose itself at some point in time. He comes across as the type that, and it's weird because one of the posts that Matt made calls or refers to people that he's antagonizing as chuds, which the previous definition of chud would be kind of like the person like Elon Musk. And I don't know how many people can truly identify with Elon. He didn't grow up of meager means by any stretch of the imagination. And if you are of privilege, then yeah, maybe you can sympathize with him. But please understand what chud means in the sense that I've been a gamer most of my life. I don't identify with chuds. The people that make you awkward, whether it's while you're standing in line or having a conversation with other coworkers, and that uncomfortable employee that always seems to come into the conversation and everybody disperses, that's what chuds are referred to as. And Elon Musk is that type of person, but with privilege. So please understand when he's referring to chuds, we shouldn't all be like, yeah, I identify. No, he's attacking a specific person or type of person. But then again, in the world of things, if you're in a public company, you shouldn't be attacking anyone. You should just know when to avoid things or avoid situations or speak in a manner that isn't insulting. Like you can get your point across without having to, roll around in the gutter and say stupid stuff or just say things that are on the top of your mind. I'm pretty sure some of the things that he says he's fine with saying them around coworkers or family members, and that's fine. But outside of that circle, which social media tends to be, you should have at least a little bit more wherewithal as far as what you're going to do, especially if it affects your job or anything that you're working on for the company that you work with. I'm pretty sure there are others in the office there over at Obsidian that slightly agree. And then there's probably others that are like, get him out of here kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing is if he, I guess, what is the word I'm looking for? Like if he crossed the line, let's say, as far as any of the, things in the employee handbook type of deal, I'm pretty sure they'll handle it accordingly.
Yeah.
But I think he probably should have just taken a minute to realize that the people that he has this disdain for have as much disdain for him and are hungrily waiting for any sort of conversation to be that, yep, this is why I'm upset. And I like that's another thing why I gave a little brief background. Like I'm tired of people being upset about being upset or being upset about a sneeze or any small thing. Like in the reality of things, this is a relatively small meaningless type of issue in the grand scheme of things. And people are taking it to the nth degree where they'll look up your entire history of things you've said that could be decades in the past where you had a different mindset decades ago. And then they'll be like, see, this is what I'm talking about. And it's like, why spend so much energy being upset as opposed to spending energy finding other entertainment? If this entertainment doesn't, go along with your views on things, it's easy enough to move on to the next game.
Indeed.
Let the oxygen leave the room on Avowed as far as you're concerned. I get it. It upsets you, so you're going to make counterpoints and things to that nature, but that's one individual out of a team of hundreds that have been working on this game. If you're going to let one individual ruin things, like much like people did with Hogwarts Legacy, which was the most random, idiotic thing. People were upset with the creator of it, but not they were upset with the devs too for even getting the license. But the game had elements that the actual IP owner would probably disagree with. So it was like people were attacking it, saying that it wasn't, it was anti this and anti that. And it's like, did you talk to the bartender or to the store lady that's married to the female teacher? Like,
yes,
I guess you didn't play it. You just assumed because of who the writer was and their personal views on things that it was going to be that way in the game. And one of the reviewers gave it like a 4 or 0 or something stupid. Like
there were places that didn't even cover it, bro.
Yeah. It, like the messages that you would want in the game are actually in the game if you had just taken the time to play it, as opposed to being all in your feelings about who the IP owner was. And that's the thing that just boggles my mind. Like there's not enough time in the day to worry about being upset about things that are either outside your control or things that are within your control to avoid. That would be the easiest thing. Like I think it's so much more calming or zen to not spend the energy on things that don't interest you. If they don't interest you, move on. And I know that's probably in some people's vantage point, looking at it as like more a defeatist standpoint. No, it's like, it's not worth your time. It's not worth your energy. If it's really something that you are opposed to, put your time and energy into stuff that doesn't, contradict what you're looking for. And there's plenty out there. Like gaming is not this small, like 1 or 2 niche games a decade kind of thing. There are hundreds of games every month that are released. And sure, we don't all have time to review or go through each and every one or the pockets to purchase every last one of them. But there is enough, out there as far as whether it's reviews or peers that will probably pick up the game that can give you, direct feedback. And if they're a peer of yours, chances are either you have similar views or respect each other's differing views enough to be able to say, okay, well, what did you think of it? Does it really go this far in this direction, or does it really do this, or is it a bunch of, garbage nonsense type of thing? And I would say that's probably the better approach as opposed to trying to have it where it's like a witch hunt on things, because witch hunts don't really work other than to get people riled up on things, and it doesn't resolve anything. It doesn't stop all of a sudden, pronouns being in a game. Doing these witch hunts, all it does is make the people that are the creatives that look to life that way, all it does is make them make more games that will have that in a fashion that's probably to the same extent what people have been complaining about Disney with some of their TV series stuff. Like it's, I don't know. I see the valid complaints. I see the invalid, disdain for individuals, or even the individuals spewing this nonsense. As far as like, I get it. You're the creative director. You feel a certain way. You probably should have thought, reread it, maybe talk to a spouse or a loved one of something and have them read it before you hit send. That would have probably saved you a lot of headache. May have even saved your job if it comes to that type of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I've watched some people complain about like and I don't want to name people, but it was one person that used to be on one of your shows, and it's like, yeah, okay, like I don't need gaming to teach me how to be a man, or games to be manly for me to enjoy them. It's a non-manly game is not going to all of a sudden change who I am. Pronouns aren't going to somehow change who I am, or change how I view life in general. But to each their own. All I'm going to say is, if something about Avowed, at least interests you, I would say still give it a chance or give it a try, despite one knucklehead saying a bunch of stuff that probably pissed you off. I would say there's probably 400 other people that have had some, interaction with this game or some hand in making this game that would, graciously accept you giving it a shot, as opposed to, letting that one person ruin a potential experience. Like there's so many games out there, yes, and not enough time to play all of them. But I would say I feel like it was a clash of somebody that probably should have stepped away from social media that day.
Yep.
And this ongoing witch hunt of people that probably used to get stuffed in lockers when they were young. And I wasn't the type of person that stuffed people in lockers. I never got stuffed in a locker. But Grums, I just I don't know. Somebody hurt him when he was younger, and you can tell how he moves and what he does, and this movement he is creating, and it's stirring up this crap storm. Like, what's funny with him being a former director, or well, not director, but like a former dev, you would think if the message he's trying to enforce or publicize was all that genuine, they would just make the games himself.
Yep. Yes.
Like, why isn't he making games anymore? Like, oh, this movement is more important than making the games? Or just because it would be, for me, if that was my movement, I would say, I'm going to make the examples of what I think gaming should be. And then if people buy it, they buy it. If they don't, they don't. But this nonsense of being outraged over every little thing, it's like, I remember when we used to refer to the younger generations as snowflakes, but I'm seeing some people that are my age that are snowflakes as well. And it's like, what are we doing these days? But I'm probably losing followers the more I run my mouth. So
no, listen,
what it is.
Look,
but yeah, it's just, I wouldn't say it's frustrating. It's just disappointing to see.
That's the word I would have used. Yeah. It's disappointing that we somehow went from being excited about an action RPG fantasy game to where we are in this conversation. And again, folks, if you tuned out, I understand. I'm not going to be mad if you unsubscribe because we talked about it. Listen, we lose and gain subscribers every day. Sometimes we get 15 and we lose 16, and we're -1 according to the stats. It is what it is. This is a topic, folks, that may not be the greatest topic that you wanted to hear, but I really think we needed to hear it. I don't like to not have these conversations because they are important, whether you agree, disagree. Where I am disappointed is in the art director taking his personal views, and instead of trying to have a conversation, meaning that he's going to sit down and have this conversation. He goes and on what was coming off of a triumphant showing for Avowed. It got a lot of people talking about the game. The buzz in the community for both social media and just gamers were like, wow, this game looks amazing. I'm going to be able to do all these different things. The magic looks great. The combat feels punchy and strong when you hit someone. That's the conversation we should have been having. And we were having those conversations until this. So where my disappointment is Matt is supposed to be a paraprofessional. He's supposed to, when these situations arise, not fall down and drop himself to a lower level. He's supposed to rate. He's a leader, right? He's a director of the art department for Obsidian Games. You are supposed to show people what not to do by not doing it, not by going out there and doing high school level antics, because that doesn't help anybody. All it does is hurt the buzz that was extremely positive for this game. Now, again, like Lito Papa said in the chat, #1 modder in the world, by the way, pronouns don't bother him. Pronouns don't bother me either. That is not going to change the way I play the game. I know someone had wrote that Paris said that the pronoun situation should be optional. I don't know if it is or it's not going to be. It absolutely should be. If you don't want to use pronouns, you shouldn't have to. But if that, in fact, is something that's been removed because this guy was trying to, I don't know, make some sort of a point, then don't play the game. Then definitely don't upgrade the $30. If you did, you can ask for a refund. And actually, if you did and you want a refund, tell them why. Tell Xbox why you want a refund. If you're on social media and be like, I was excited for Avowed, I couldn't wait, but this happened. You should say that on social media. Now, I'm not saying you should be a jerk about it, or and entirely that's up to you. That's not the way I would personally handle it. I would handle it politically correct, but that's the way I handle my business. I can't tell you how to handle yours. At the end of the day, folks, look, I'm super stoked for Avowed. Nothing is going to change my thoughts and my appreciation for Obsidian as a developer. One person's opinion does not make an entire company. And I think I see a lot of people trying to drive that point home is like, oh, just a second, boom. If one person thinks like this, they all do. Please don't be that person. That's again, if you don't like what happened or like what was said, because I don't like it, crusty white dudes. What the hell does that have to do with the pronouns? I don't understand where that even came from. And you know something? Saying that he wants newer talent in the form of black artists, that's freaking awesome. That's what should be celebrated. Bringing people of culture into gaming of every race, creed, sex, sexual orientation or religion. Everyone who wants to make a game and you go to school, you should be given an opportunity to make the game, regardless of where you come from. So, to that point about bringing a new African-American artist, that's phenomenal. I just don't understand the whole crusty white thing. I thought that was really weird. I thought about, crushing us into the blood of the earth. That was another thing. I was a little, maybe it was boxed or something. Someone should have took the microphone away and took the keyboard away from this person, because that definitely wasn't good either. But look, we talked about it. Your opinions, folks, they matter to me. They matter to Fuzzy. Do we all agree? No. Can we all still be friends? 1,000%. We can all still be here in the chat. There's over 600 people here watching live across Twitch, X, and of course YouTube. A big thank you to everyone that stayed tuned in, even though we're talking about a pretty heavy subject here. We still got a little bit of show left. Again, the show's going a little longer than I would have liked, because normally this is a shorter show, but this is one of those topics where there's no time limit. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to have the adult conversation. And again, hopefully everyone in the chat could walk away. We could all still be friends, even though we may or may not agree on a particular way if this was handled. I think that ultimately, who's hurt by this? Who's ultimately hurt? It's the development team at Obsidian who's the one that's going to suffer the most, because unfortunately they had one person speaking for them when that should not have been the case. And being that he is an art director and he is a person of a title that that in its just simplest form is considered to be a leader, this is not what good leaders do. You do not take a situation that was extremely positive, and because your views uh, totally disrupt and destroy all of the great buzz and the conversation that people were having about the game. That's all I will say about that. We have a couple of super chats here. Broke Boy Lewis drops an additional very generous $2 super chat, and he goes on to say, "Don't forget Pat's friend Chris." I didn't even see. I never watched Saturday Night Live like that, so I don't know who Chris is. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's Pat was a conundrum. We didn't know whether Pat was a boy or a girl. I guess that was the shtick of it. Someone actually, I believe, it was Stanaro said Pat would not fly in this era. You're probably right about that. This world is very, very reactive. I don't think I don't think a lot of things Saturday Night Live did back in the early, the late 70s, early 80s would fly in the 2024s. I don't think so at all. I think like if you ever watch some of the older stuff, you like I'm appalled. Like I watched that as a kid, and I'm like, oh my god, did they actually say that? Did they say that? And that's how it was. So yeah, that's unfortunately the case. Ultron Quake, who's been a channel member for 15 months, says, "Ditch Twitter last month. Good for you, kind sir. It's been so beneficial for my mental health to not have Elon forcing neo-Nazis onto my timeline." I mean, you're not wrong there with the neo-Nazis thing. Folks, I don't get that. I think everyone matters, folks. It doesn't matter. Again, this is the way that Jose and I say Jose, Mrs. Boom, built this channel was at its core we as people were going to be transparent. We were going to be welcoming. We were going to be we wanted to make sure that everyone that showed up, regardless of race, creed, color, sexual orientation, or religion, is welcome. We doesn't matter what console you enjoy. If you are a PlayStation guy or gal, you're welcome here. We don't go after people for being PlayStation players. I'm a PlayStation player. I just prefer Xbox. We wanted to be open-ended on this channel and engaging and fun. Not everyone channels like that. That's fine. But this is how we do our business. We also had, a super chat coming in here from Roy Von Dahlen, who drops a very generous $20 super chat. He goes on to say, "Hi, Mr. Boomstick Fuzzy. Love the show and contributions. On subject, I follow it in the weekend, and there was more to it than a few stupid remarks of one person. Anyway, greetings from Europe. Take care." Yeah, I mean, again, we're not dumping. First of all, thank you so much for the generosity. Appreciate you being here, Roy. Definitely appreciate the commentary. Again, this was not made to dump on any one particular person. I just think that from a leadership point of view, you as a leader it doesn't matter what field you're in, you have a responsibility to be bigger and better than everyone else because you are a leader. You are required to do these things as leadership. He did not show that, unfortunately. His views are his views. He's entitled to them, absolutely. But unfortunately, when you go on a rant like this, it's looked at upon as being negative. And again, some of the things that he said were very perplexing. I would even dare say a bit odd in some aspects. And again, no one's dumping on the dude, but he's a leader. He did not act like a leader. At least I don't think he did. I think that he took for granted the position that he's in, and he took his own personal views and mixed them. There's a time and place for everything, and I don't think that this was the place for that, especially coming off of just all the great buzz. I just hope that people still play this game, because it wasn't one person that made this. It was hundreds of people that made this game, and I'm sorry to say that game looks dope AF. I cannot wait to get into it. I cannot wait to learn what the Living Lands are, because I don't have any one-to-ones with that particular universe. It's going to be new for me, and I'm still super, super excited for it. But Fuzzy, I do want to get into the last part of the show, and that is, of course, the Kadokawa situation. Now, look, I think Sony has a big hill to climb here. I do not think that they are going to just announce that they have acquired Kadokawa and everything is going to go through, and there's not going to be any pushback from regulators around the world. I think that there's a lot more to this story, but kind of where I want to talk about this is the fact that, one, Sony as a corporation, and I want this to be clear, they are a billion with a B, $1 billion corporation. They're not poor. They're not Microsoft, that is for sure. They are not a $3 trillion company. They are much lower on the finances scale. And some of the investments that they've made recently are just not paying off for them. So they are in a bit of dire straits financially to make another big push for an acquisition. And why do I say that? Well, just look at what has happened. I don't want to talk about the PSVR 2.0 not doing well. I don't want to talk about the $400 million bath that they took with Concord and the fact that they had to close the studio. Just look at the last acquisition they made. They bought Bungie, $3.6 billion. And $1.2 billion of that was for retention. Now, if you don't know what retention is, that is extra money that was added on the back end of this deal to keep the talent from leaving Bungie and going somewhere else. That's what that $1.2 billion of retention money was for.
Oh, the people that they let go before they were vested?
I mean, there's that. That's a phenomenal point. So getting back to Kadokawa. Now, look, if you've been following this particular story closely, Fuzzy, and I know that you have, and I know I have, I'm talking really so much to the chat. You got to go back a little bit because they've been buying up anime houses for quite some time. And what starts to happen when you have so many anime houses underneath the SIE umbrella, it starts to move towards what is considered a monopoly. Anything over 65% of a particular market is a monopoly, and they, I think, are really close. Without it, this purchase of Kadokawa would send them well over the edge. Now, I don't know what happens with Trump here in the States. Do they push back on it? The FTC is going to be much different than it is now, but I don't think the FTC is your problem. I think in Europe is where you're going to run across some big pushback. And ultimately, do they break this up? Do they have to give up the anime? Do they want it just for the because again, think about this, folks. If you're Sony, and we know Sony, they're going to try and make Elden Ring 2 exclusive. I don't care what anyone says now. I've heard two different stories from two different prominent people in the industry that says that's not going to happen. Unless that's contracted, Sony is going to make that happen because it's Sony. It's what they do. But here is the tick, if you will, Fuzzy. We learned, thanks to multiple articles, and I sent them to you, okay? One from Game Rant and one from YahooFinance.com. Finance.com. Is that for the last 2 years, Kadokawa has been fishing Sony to buy them the same way ABK was like, hey, Microsoft, do you want to buy us? We want to sell. The issue at hand here, though, is the fact that they want the entire company to be sold. They do not want to sell it off in a piecemeal, meaning they want SIE, Sony Interactive Entertainment, to buy the entire company, not just the gaming and anime division. I don't know if Sony has the money for that. And I don't know if they, again, they're a billion-dollar company, but that money is invested. Now, there are some talks, and I have heard from different people that they're looking to, quote-unquote, get a loan in order to get this sale to go through. it's kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Remember, weren't they supposed to buy MGM? Was it like a couple of months ago? And what happened with that? That fell right through. I kind of feel like this is going to happen. So the question is, if this falls through for Sony, does Microsoft pick up this fumble and go back the other way? Because I'm going to be honest with you, if I'm Microsoft and I'm looking to get into Japan, this is how you do it. Now, I don't know if they would sell to a quote unquote foreign entity, which is Microsoft is not homegrown in Japan. Right. But I don't know if they would turn away from the monies. Let's get your thoughts.
There are precedent as far as when it comes to being a foreign buyer in Japan. You can own property, you can own corporations, but there are certain hoops you have to jump through. And Microsoft would more than likely or willingly jump through a lot of those hoops to make it work if that should be something that presents itself at the end. But I think the big thing is, if I'm not mistaken, Sony hasn't finished paying off for Bungie. Like, people joke and say, "Oh, it was on the layaway program." No, it's still on loan. For that company that was supposed to be more beneficial than an Activision acquisition. But I'll leave it there. Kadokawa wants the entire company sold or acquired. It's funny. Sony was in this situation. Not many people know. Sony was in this situation around 2006 or 2008. Apple wanted all of Sony, and Sony just wanted to get rid of its dead weight, which was like their movie studio stuff, which they tried to get rid of during that one. They had the another breach or something at that point. They were so basically Apple wanted their cameras and some of their phone tech to fall under their guys, and then have it where they would finally have an Apple TV that wasn't just like an accessory or an add-on device. They could actually just rebrand Sony TVs or keep the Sony name, much like they did with the Beats headphones, and keep the name. But it's funny. If Sony is smart, they'll just go ahead and do the acquisition unless there's a lot of hidden debt, kind of like what Bungie had to some extent.
Yes.
They kind of cooked the books for some of it, but I guess they had some of the employees were the names of the cars he was purchasing, and they were legit employees on the books. But no, with Sony, I think this can happen. Yes, the CMA will probably be a nuisance, but I think they'll be able to work out a deal because they seem to like Sony more so than the likes of Microsoft or Google and bigger companies like that. So I think Sony would be able to get away with having it where their content would be available to any streaming service, whether it be Netflix, Amazon, and so forth. They'll have that rider in the contract where it has to be like a reasonable rate or something for them, or an add-in channel kind of thing. Because outside of anime, Sony kind of gave up their streaming service that they had, which was supposed to replace cable a few years back. But if Sony gets it, Elden Ring and the Dark Souls, titles will be exclusive because that's how Sony rolls.
Yep.
Kadokawa is not going to make a stipulation that they have to remain everywhere, kind of thing. I mean, Hiroki Totoki likes money, so maybe he does make some of the stuff, multi-plat. Like maybe Dark Souls stays multi-plat, but Elden Ring, I could see either having like a timed exclusive time or a deal on PlayStation where it's available for 6 months on PlayStation first, and then the rest of the platforms get it, or they would have some sort of exclusive content that ties into either Bloodborne or Demon Souls or something along those lines. But Sony's going to have to get a loan, and that's not out of the ordinary for big corporations, but I don't know. I just feel like Sony is not as, I wouldn't say it's not as profitable as they once were, but it feels like they're in a holding pattern while their studios catch up and move or transition from the games as a service stuff that they were working on to single player stories that they're known for. Hopefully we get a showcase. I doubt it's before the end of this year. Maybe we get one next year to see what they're working on towards the end of this current console generation. But yeah, if they pick up Kadokawa, I don't think there'll be as much of a roadblock from the CMA as there was for Microsoft with Activision, just because they're not seen as a big evil corporation. Like if it was Google, if it was Google that had all the other anime houses, then yeah, maybe the CMA would have something to say because they already have something to say about the mobile store stuff. If it was Apple, same deal. But Microsoft, they would, even if Microsoft doesn't have a monopoly on anime in any way, shape, or form, I could see the CMA giving Microsoft a harder time just because, it's a publishing arm. You'll have to make sure that these games are available for streaming service elsewhere, as well as remain multi-plat or something like that, kind of like the way they did with Call of Duty. Because people over at Sony would probably some of the executives would be like, they'll try to make Elden Ring exclusive or make it so it's less competitive on our platform. And CMA will cater to PlayStation over Microsoft. But yeah, I'll be honest, just because Sony seems like they're in that holding pattern, I almost want them to get this, because maybe it'll spark some energy as far as some single player games that will be coming from first party that aren't games as a service. But I don't know. I just, considering, and I don't want to say Sony has money problems, but they've had a few issues with other studio related things. And I think they were even looking at WB for a bit, as well as Paramount. And it doesn't feel like they have enough in their pocket. So the loans aren't as appealing to the companies that are looking to be acquired. And we'll see if Kadokawa is fine with that acquisition, being by loan. Well, then again, the shareholders get paid off, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, they're going to get their money one way or another. It's just that Sony's going to owe someone else money rather than them just come out of their own pockets. And maybe that's the angle. I listen. I'm not in finance, folks. What the heck do I know? But I'm just saying that we'll see. And I'm sure. Look, there's been a lot of big changes over at Sony. Now, what are those changes actually for? Are they moving towards, we want to put our games everywhere, and that's why all of the old guard is gone? Mm-hmm. That's an opinion, folks. You can have one way or the other. I don't know what Sony's gonna do. But it's things are changing over at Sony. And Hiroki Totoki, who's the money guy, obviously has big plans, and I don't know if exclusivity or like for instance, you're never going to see a day-and-day game. This is just my opinion. Release on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox and Switch. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Now, what you might see first, or at least up front, at least in my opinion, is you're going to get PC and PlayStation day and date. I think that has to happen if they're leaving too much money on the table.
Yeah.
Do they do that with Nintendo and Xbox? Well, they did it with Nintendo. Unfortunately, their first game did just, the Lego Horizon Adventures. That game looks great. When I can catch a sale, I'm going to buy it for the Switch. And I'm actually going to go look today because it's Cyber Monday. That game's $30. I'm buying it. Not even a question. I own every freaking Lego game there is. I love those. But that wasn't a great experiment. That didn't do well for them on any of the platforms it released on, so especially on PC. There was like the most that they had the concurrent was like 600 people. That's not good, man. So I don't know if that quote unquote experiment fails, and they're like, yeah, we're not doing that again. And maybe they just stick to PlayStation. Only time is going to tell, but. I want to say a big thank you for everyone that tuned in. We're an hour and a half into the show. Normally, this is only like a 70-ish minute, but we did have a couple of big topics to get into, and the middle one was the biggest one, obviously. And I'm glad that we had the conversation. And some people, I get a lot of DMs, people asking if we were going to talk about it. And look, I don't shy away from the controversy. I think this was a very productive, thought-provoking conversation. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down button. Say, hey, boom, I didn't like what you were peddling. I'm not going to fight you on it. That's your opinion. But we do have a comment here from Big Mad Mo, who's been a channel member for 31 months. He goes on to say, shout out to Boom and Fuzzy. And of course, shout out to you, kind sir. Hopefully you had an amazing Thanksgiving with your friends and family. How many people you think know about this, let alone Matt? My hope is my hope will never change. And congrats on the Valari pillow. Yeah, brother, first of all, thank you for the congratulations. The truth of the matter is, Mo, I don't think 80 plus freaking percent gives a flying hoot nanny over what Matt had to say. We're talking about it because we are the diehard community. We're in the trenches. We're reading social media. We're reading articles. You're tuning into a dozen plus podcasts a week, and you're getting opinions from here, there, and everywhere. Do I ultimately care what Matt said? No, not really. I think it was a bad way to show his distaste for people like Elon Musk. There's other ways to do it. And ultimately, as a manager, as a leader, I say this for myself, folks. As a leader, you're supposed to raise yourself above everyone else. Not that you are. Let's get this clear. No one is saying that you should consider yourself better than anyone else. No, that's not the point here. As a leader, you are supposed to take the responsibility of the particular action you're about to take, and you're supposed to think about others first before yourself. That's what I mean by that. Being a leader has you doing things that other people wouldn't consider doing because they're like, yeah, whatever. I'll just say what I want and go. You're supposed to be above it. You're supposed to be better than. And he wasn't here. He just wasn't. Day Reezy drops a very generous $20 super chat. So Day, thank you so much for the outstanding generosity. And thank you for being here as always. He goes on to say, I work in a diner. If my manager says something stupid, it does not reflect my coworkers' views and my own point of views. It doesn't make the food that served bad all of a sudden. 50 years of service and people will still come to eat. That's a phenomenal point. I think that one person certainly doesn't spoil the soup, so to speak. But I did see a lot of commentary of people that were excited and no longer are. Now, is that some sort of a social media ploy? I don't pretend. I don't have a PhD. I don't get into people's mental psyches. If you are disappointed as a consumer and you walked away from what was said, you felt that it was racist, you felt that it was insensitive, you felt that it was out of place, out of character, and bad taste, any of those things, you have a right to react as a consumer, not play the game, not buy the game, not support the game, not talk about the game. That's entirely up to you. I'm still going to play the game. I bought the $30 upgrade already. I am going to love it because I'm an Obsidian fan, and one person's stupidity isn't going to change my thoughts and theories of a company, of a developer that I've loved for years. It's unfortunate that this happened, but it's not personally for me going to change how I feel about Obsidian. I don't like that guy. I think that something has to be done because you can't shoot from the hip like that. You are hurting the business. And that's ultimately we're going to see what happens. But we got one more here. Hey, Aris EMS. This is amazing. He has gifted folks 10 double barrel gaming memberships. That is crazy generous of you. And he's done this more times than I can actually remember as an old man. So Aries_EMS, thank you so much. I said Aries EMS. Thank you so much for the generosity as always. We talked in DMs, I think a couple of weeks ago. Gentleman of a person. So thank you so much for the generosity as always. Fuzzy, let's get everyone out of here and let's sell the brand, but not just to your YouTube channel. We want to sell it, of course, for you, which is the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre. But his wife has a horror podcast that they launched about 2 months ago, and I'd love to see more people tune in to both of these YouTube channels. Tell everyone where they can subscribe to both, follow both of you on social media, and what else you got going on.
Oh, as always, I just want to thank you for having me on. And I love the fact that we can talk about gaming and have these hard conversations and whatnot. And yeah, I'm probably going to get clipped on some stuff, but it's all in fun. And as far as from a gaming standpoint, I always look forward to have fun in this hobby that we all enjoy and love interacting with everybody in the chat. Thank you guys. I know we're not always going to agree, but it's always great to know that we're still looking forward to gaming as a whole. No matter how we look at the games themselves, certain games may fall to the wayside. You know, it is what it is. But thank you guys for taking the time, joining us, watching us. We greatly appreciate it. For those who want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on the app, formerly known as Twitter, at fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find me on Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, everywhere but Facebook because reasons. But you can also, if you are into horror games or horror movies, don't forget, follow my wife, Ferocious Fee 78, and that's Fee as in Fiona, Fi. I'll put the link in the chat for her YouTube channel. We're going to be, I think it's not the Substance, I think is what we're watching this Friday. So if you've seen that fairly recent movie, definitely check out our podcast on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. Once again, I'll put the link in the chat. We're going to be breaking it down. Previous week, we broke down Black Friday. A more time sensitive, well, not time sensitive, but in the times with the holidays and everything with Bruce Campbell, although Bruce Campbell not really acting like Bruce Campbell in it, but it was still a good movie.
It was fun. I didn't know what to expect with it. Mrs. Boom and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, but it's, hey, if you're into zombies and you grew up as a Toys R Us kid, definitely check out Black Friday with Bruce Campbell. I think it came out in 2021. I might be wrong.
It's a couple of years old, but it was good. It's I'll put it this way: you'll watch it once, and you'll traditionally watch it. I mean, it's got Bruce Campbell in it. How could you freaking go wrong? So
yeah,
there's that.
No, but as always,
thank you so much for being here, brother. Super appreciate you being here. Again, please subscribe to Fuzzy Belvedere as YouTube channel, as well as the missus. They're doing good work in the community. They're having fun. That's what we do here. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, folks, hit the like button. If you didn't and you want to just send me to Hades, I'm not going to fight you on it, folks. We try to be honest. We try to be fun. We try to be engaging. And every now and again, there's something like this is going to happen. And we got to talk about it. It's a big topic. It does matter. One person's opinion, sure, does not make everyone's opinion. But I just hate that you have a game coming out that a lot of people were down on. People were like, man, I don't know so much about that Avowed. That looks kind of mid. And then it has this amazing preview. And you're like, holy shit, I can't believe that this is, I mean, we should have guessed it. It's Obsidian. And everyone's excited. And people are like, oh my God, I can't wait to play. It's coming out February. It's the first opening salvo of the year for Xbox. This is great. And then we have this. And you're like, man, it's unnecessary. You can have your opinion, sure, but this was not the right way to do it. But that's my take on it, folks. Again, please, if you enjoyed it, the show, hit the like button. If you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. We do this Monday through Friday, 5 different shows, all different panels. And you know what? We just have fun. Folks, if you didn't know, I threw the link into the Volari gaming pillow. I mean, I'm trying not to smile from ear to ear like the Cheshire Cat or the Grinch, because it's pretty unbelievable that we have our brand, our logo on someone else's stuff. Like, I mean, I would have never, if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I'd be like, you're crap, you're freaking out your mind. And here we are. So if you need a pillow for your back, and I use it, I have it right here. It really is phenomenal. DBG15 at checkout will save you 15% off your order. The pillow itself is $99. It's 15% off that. And, give it a look. I think you're going to dig it. But thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day. A big thank you to all of the super chats that came in, as always. Of course, the channel memberships that were donated by Aris_EMS. We do greatly appreciate it. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.